Picture a scene that's become all too common. It's late, the house is quiet, and a single light burns in the kitchen. Around the table sits a family, but this isn't a cozy late-night snack. This is a monthly ritual of financial anxiety. The parents are what we'd all consider the bedrock of a healthy society. A dedicated teacher, a compassionate nurse. They followed the rules, got the education, and secured the steady jobs that were supposed to guarantee a stable life. Their income on paper should be more than enough. But the paper in front of them tells a different story. A mountain of it. The mortgage payment that just went up. The student loan debt that never seems to shrink. The unexpected bill from a minor medical emergency. The ever-climbing cost of groceries and gas. By the time the calculator shows the final tally, the result is always the same. A sliver of what they earned is all that remains. There's no room for error, no buffer for the next crisis. The father, exhausted, rubs his temples. The mother stares at the glowing numbers, rerunning the math as if a different answer might magically appear. And in this moment of quiet desperation, their child asks a question of devastating simplicity, one that cuts through all the complex excuses. We're not poor, right? So why can't we ever seem to afford the things we need? It's a question they have no simple answer for. Because the truth is, they don't feel poor, not in the traditional sense. But they don't feel secure either. They exist in a fragile, undefined space in between. And that fragile space is the subject of our investigation. Because here is the shocking, uncomfortable truth. For millions, the very definition of middle class has been dangerously rewritten. The term once conjured images of stability, of owning a home, of saving for retirement and your children's education. It was the tangible reward for hard work, but that promise has faded. Today, being middle class no longer means security. It means precarity. It means walking a razor-thin tightrope, suspended just above the chasm of poverty, where a single misstep, a job loss, a health crisis, can send you tumbling. So how did this happen? How did the backbone of society become so brittle? In this video, we'll pull back the curtain on this silent crisis. We will trace the powerful economic forces, from wage stagnation to policy decisions, that systematically hollowed out the middle. We'll reveal the immense pressures modern families are buckling under, from the crushing weight of debt to the psychological toll of never getting ahead. And finally, we'll ask, what does a future built on a disappearing middle class look like, and can we reverse course? I'm your host, and this is Decoding Point. Today, we're decoding the quiet collapse of the middle class. The middle class didn't always exist. It was a product of industrial revolutions, post-war growth, and the promise of upward mobility. For decades, it meant something powerful: a stable job, a home, healthcare, education for children, maybe even a family vacation. But what built it up is also what's tearing it down. Globalization shifted industries. Automation replaced jobs. Wages stagnated while costs soared. It's like a house whose foundation is cracking. On the outside, it still stands, but inside, the walls are splitting apart. For generations, owning a home was the crown jewel of middle-class success. It was more than shelter. It was a symbol you'd made it, a foundation for family and a guarantee of security. But that cornerstone of the 20th century dream has fractured. Today, for millions, the pursuit of home ownership is no longer a path to prosperity. It's become one of the biggest financial traps of modern life, a game rigged from the start. The numbers are staggering. In most major cities, the average home now costs 10 to 15 years of a household's entire income, a dramatic leap from just 3 to 5 years a few decades ago. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a structural barrier locking entire generations out of the market. They are stuck renting, with each payment enriching landlords instead of building their own families' security and wealth. Housing has been transformed from a place to live into a speculative asset for global investors. Combined with rising mortgage rates, this has turned ownership from a middle-class milestone into a luxury reserved for the top 10%. Widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Take Lena, a young architect in a booming Southeast Asian city. She's a perfect example of this new reality. She's talented, works hard, and earns a salary that far surpasses what her parents ever did. Yet, she will likely spend her entire life renting a series of small apartments. The cruel irony is that she designs the very luxury high-rises she can never afford to live in. In her city, property prices are completely detached from local incomes, inflated by global investment flows that have turned homes into commodities. So, while her salary is technically middle class, her reality feels like poverty. This is her apartment. It's clean, but it's crushingly small, a space where life feels contained, not cultivated. The constant city noise seeping through thin windows is a reminder of a world she helps build but is excluded from. This isn't just about a small apartment, it's about a constrained life, the poverty of diminishing expectations where you work harder than the generation before, only to end up with less. For generations, the path to a stable, prosperous life was clearly marked. Middle-class families saw two institutions as their steadfast allies, healthcare and education. They were the twin engines of upward mobility, the ultimate investment in a better future. But that promise has fractured. Today, these former pillars have become crushing, inescapable burdens. The fear is palpable. A single, unforeseen medical emergency, a sudden diagnosis, a car accident, can detonate a financial bomb, erasing years of diligent savings in an instant. In many nations, even those with public healthcare systems, the relentless rise of out-of-pocket spending for deductibles, co-pays, and uncovered treatments pushes countless families into a spiral of debt. The choice becomes agonizing. Risk financial ruin to save a life or forego necessary care, hoping for the best? The story is tragically similar in the halls of academia. Tuition fees worldwide have not just risen, they have skyrocketed, dramatically outpacing wage growth. The result is a global student debt crisis now measured in the trillions of dollars. This isn't just a number, it's a generational anchor, delaying home ownership and chaining young people to the past just as they try to build a future. Consider Daniel, a bright engineering graduate from Africa. He did everything right, securing a place at a prestigious university and now earning a respectable salary at a multinational corporation. On the surface, he is a middle-class success story, but the reality is a quiet struggle. Nearly half his monthly income is automatically debited to service his colossal student loans. His middle-class status is trapped by a debt he calculates he may never escape in his working lifetime. This is the cruel paradox of the modern middle class. The very mechanisms designed to be the great equalizers, education and health, have been twisted into instruments of financial entrapment, becoming a form of economic quicksand where the harder one struggles, the faster one sinks. The numbers tell a cruel story. Global productivity has doubled in the last 40 years. Wages for most workers, flat. Essentials, food, housing, fuel, education have risen far faster than earnings. For many, paychecks cover survival, not stability. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every year. No matter how hard families run, they never get ahead. How has the middle class survived this long? Debt. Credit cards, personal loans, mortgages, education loans. These were sold as empowerment, but they've become shackles. Global household debt now exceeds $57 trillion. Families borrow not to buy luxuries, but to cover basics. Debt hides poverty. It creates the illusion of stability while silently draining the future. Imagine a company paying its electricity bill by selling shares every month. That's how many middle-class families survive, borrowing to fund ordinary life. It works until it doesn't. This isn't one country's story, it's the world's. In Asia, a booming new middle class is celebrated, yet high costs keep them fragile. In Europe, steady wages are undermined by rising living costs and taxes. In Africa and Latin America, families entering the middle class risk falling back into poverty with a single economic shock. Wherever you look, the pattern is the same. The middle class is no longer a place of security, but of survival. If this trend continues, the middle class may vanish. Societies will polarize into two camps: a small, wealthy elite and billions struggling to make ends meet. History shows us what happens when the middle collapses. Instability, protests, political upheavals, even revolutions. The terrifying future. The middle class doesn't just shrink, it becomes irrelevant. So, why is the middle class the new poverty line? Because stable jobs no longer guarantee security. Because housing, healthcare, and education now weigh more than they lift. Because debt props up an illusion that collapses under stress. The middle class isn't dying, it's being redefined downward. And unless societies change, middle class will soon mean little more than a polite word for poverty. What about you? Do you feel safe in the middle class or trapped by it? But what do you think? Do you agree or do you see it differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Today, we decoded why the middle class is collapsing into poverty. But this isn't just about families, it's about entire economies running on fragile ground. We explored that bigger picture in our earlier video, Are We One Step from Another Great Depression? Watch it next, and you'll see how the fall of the middle class connects to global financial instability in ways you never imagined. And subscribe button.